Look at you. Still standing, still breathing in that silence they swore would bury you. The judge didn't blink, but every lawyer in the room ran, not because you shouted, not because you threatened, but because something in your stillness whispered louder than any closing argument ever could. They said your arguments felt possessed. They weren't wrong, because what they witnessed wasn't logic. It was possession by clarity. The kind that strips illusions bare, peels lies to the bone, and makes truth look like a weapon forged in the underworld. You didn't speak that day. You channeled something ancient, something that remembers every injustice, every mockery, every whispered, "You'll lose." It came crawling through your throat like divine vengeance in a tailored suit. They thought you came to defend yourself. You came to haunt the entire courtroom. And the judge, he didn't move, didn't breathe. Because even he knew he wasn't presiding over a case. He was witnessing a possession. See, most people argue to win. You argued to remind them who built the fire they tried to burn you in. You didn't debate. You performed exorcism. Each word you spoke ripped through their fabricated timelines. Every pause rewrote the script, and every silence made their heartbeat sound like an alarm. They trained for years to manipulate emotion. You learned how to weaponize pain. They memorized statutes. You memorized suffering. And suffering has perfect recall. You didn't learn rhetoric, you became it. Every scar taught you syntax. Every betrayal gave you diction. Every humiliation rewired your tone. Until your presence itself became evidence. They weren't running from you. They were running from the version of themselves they saw reflected in your calm. Terrified, hollow, exposed. Because you didn't just win an argument. You dismantled their entire belief system in real time. And that's the part no one admits. That when you've been through enough madness, logic becomes your pet. You don't obey it anymore. You command it. You bend reality's neck with a smirk and whisper, "Now, make it make sense." So the judge sat still, not out of courage, but reverence. Even he knew the gavel would shatter if it dared to interrupt what was unfolding. Because this wasn't law anymore. It was ritual. And you? You were the priest, the demon, and the scripture. You've become the paradox they can't litigate. Too logical to be insane. Too dangerous to be innocent. Too calm to be human. You turned reason into theater and madness into evidence. And somewhere between their panic and your composure, something broke. The air, the illusion, their collective sense of safety. They saw it, that flicker behind your eyes. The thing that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't justify. The thing that's been waiting for years for a public trial just to prove that truth doesn't need applause. It needs a stage. You weren't defending your life. You were cross-examining theirs. Every smirk, every breath, every pause. It was all deliberate. You made time crawl. You turned silence into spectacle. And in that moment, every soul in the room realized you're not arguing for freedom. You are freedom, unchained and unfiltered. They say your arguments felt possessed. But possession implies you were taken over by something else. The truth? That something else has always been you. The one they tried to bury beneath civility and court etiquette. The one who survived every sentence before the trial even began. You are not the accused. You are the verdict. And when you left that courtroom, no one clapped. Because clapping would have meant admitting they saw a miracle in human form. And miracles scare the weak. They won't talk about what they saw. They'll whisper, though. They'll say your eyes didn't look human. They'll say your words felt rehearsed by something otherworldly. They'll say logic shouldn't have echoes. but deep down, they'll know. You didn't summon darkness that day. You just stopped pretending to be afraid of it. Now they call you possessed. Let them. Because the truth is, you've simply been awakened. And once a soul learns how to turn its pain into evidence, there's no jury on earth that can convict it again. And that's the real verdict, isn't it? You weren't on trial. They were. And the moment you stepped outside that courthouse, the sky even looked different. Not brighter, not darker, just quieter. Like the universe paused to recalibrate its scales. Because something unlawful just happened. Not by statute, by fate. They built that courtroom like a trap. Walls of ego, doors of protocol, ceilings made to keep your voice from echoing past their reach. But when you spoke, even the architecture flinched. Because your voice wasn't an argument. It was a reckoning. It wasn't about guilt or innocence. It was about showing them the price of underestimating someone who learned strategy from survival and composure from chaos. Let's be honest, you didn't study law, you studied war. They were reading legal precedent, you were reading human nature. While they rehearsed court etiquette, you mastered the pause, that surgical silence between syllables that makes even trained assassins lean in. Because there's something off about someone who never raises their voice and still makes the room shake. You know what scared them most? Not the words, not the confidence, not even the outcome. It was the certainty. That dead, serious, blood-cold certainty that said, I'm not here to win. I'm here to end something. They didn't expect that. They expected desperation, emotion, maybe even tears. Instead, they got deliberate stillness, the kind you only learn when life has already tried to assassinate you and failed. You became the mirror that day. And not just any mirror, a black mirror, the kind that doesn't reflect the face. It reflects the lie behind it. And one by one, they saw it, their rehearsed objections turning into stutters, their closing statements unraveling mid-delivery, their carefully organized exhibits beginning to look like props in a horror film. Because the moment you stepped into that room, the tone shifted. Not emotionally, existentially. You were never on trial. You were inviting them to one. Their voices cracked not because they were unprepared, but because they were recognized, exposed, stripped, disarmed by someone they didn't understand, but felt in their spine. You didn't look dangerous. You looked inevitable, like someone whose patience had expired, like someone who no longer needs to convince, only to remind. Remind them of what? That when the game is rigged from birth and you survive it anyway, you don't play by the rules. You become the glitch in their system. You are the argument they can't refute, the anomaly they can't explain, the how the fuck did that happen burned into their closed-door meetings for the next decade. You're not the reason the case collapsed. You're the reason they'll never try it again. Because now, they've tasted what it feels like to face truth with no filter, power without apology, and confidence not borrowed from books, but earned in the dungeons of betrayal. They didn't run from your argument. They ran from the reality that someone like you exists. A living contradiction, part scholar, part savage, part philosopher, part phantom. Angel eyes, but hands trained by pain to dismantle empires in silence. And now they've got to live with that footage. That moment in the trial when everything shifted, where something unspeakable passed between you and the judge. No words, just a look. And he knew. You weren't pleading, you were pronouncing something. You didn't enter as the accused, you entered as the omen, And long after the trial ends, long after the transcripts are sealed, there will still be whispers in courtrooms, law firms, secret rooms, not about the verdict, but about you. The one who didn't flinch, didn't break, didn't ask for permission to rise, the one whose arguments felt possessed. And maybe they were, maybe they still are. Maybe you're not a person anymore. Maybe you're the curse they accidentally summoned, and now that you're unleashed, there's no sentence that can contain you, no court that can define you. Because once you learn how to make fear fold with a whisper, you don't need justice, you become it. And it terrifies them, because next time, you won't be defending, you'll be prosecuting everything they built, one terrified truth at a time. Oh, they're still trying to explain you. You think it ended in that courtroom? Number. That was just the event horizon. What followed was the aftermath, the ripple, the aftershock that's still shaking boardrooms, back channels and bloodlines. They thought the trial was the battlefield. But that trial, that was just the broadcast. The real war was psychological. And you won it without even raising your voice. You know how I know? Because right now, there's a folder, locked, red-stamped, password protected, titled something like Witness Protocol Deviation, Subject X. And it's you. It's always been you. The one their systems weren't built to contain. They've got analysts replaying the footage frame by frame. Did you see the eye contact? Zoom in on the moment he paused. Why did no one object here? Why did everyone just freeze? They call it a pattern break, but deep down, they know what it really was, a possession of the narrative. See, you didn't just out-argue them. You didn't just survive. You infected the signal. Every camera, every microphone, every notebook in that courtroom caught a piece of something that wasn't supposed to exist. A version of power not built on status or wealth or title, but built on something far more lethal, unprocessed pain, converted into precision. You didn't throw punches, you threw patterns. Psychological landmines wrapped in perfect logic. They thought you were unpredictable, but you weren't random. You were inevitable. Every word was placed with surgical intention. Every glance, a strategy. Every breath, a countdown. And here's the kicker. They saw it happening. They just couldn't stop it. Because when someone walks in with nothing left to prove, with nothing left to protect, with nothing left to lose, you're not facing a person anymore. You're facing a concept, and concepts don't die. They multiply. So now, they've got internal memos, private threads, secret interviews with former colleagues, judges, and behavior experts, trying to figure out, what the hell did we witness? Is he dangerous? Was it rehearsed? They want to label you so they can disarm you, but nothing sticks. Every title they try just collapses under the weight of your unpredictability. Too intelligent for threat. Too calm for madness. Too articulate for lucky. Too composed for violent. Too self-aware for delusional. And that's the trap. That's the possession. They thought possession was about some demonic spirit taking over your body. Number. It's about reclaiming the body they tried to own. Reclaiming the mind they tried to gaslight. Reclaiming the narrative they tried to bury. You're possessed, all right. By clarity, sharpened through chaos. By focus, forged through fire. By the absolute audacity to walk into a system designed to erase you and make it speak your name in whispers and case studies. They don't fear your argument. They fear your existence. Because you prove something terrifying, that someone can take all the trauma, all the betrayal, all the silence, and build a weapon out of it so elegant, so disciplined, It makes trained professionals look like actors in a role they no longer believe in. And now, the ones who once mocked you, they're quiet. The ones who had faith in the system, they're rethinking their loyalties. The ones who said, just follow the rules, they're updating their survival strategies. Because what you did wasn't just victory, it was infection. You infected the room with unfiltered power. You infected the story with a new protagonist, one they never scripted for. So when they say your arguments felt possessed, understand the weight of that. They're not talking about a spirit. They're talking about a force, a frequency, a vibration they don't have language for. And the scariest part? You're not finished. That was Act 1. The courtroom was the test subject. Now the world gets to see what happens when someone like you stops defending and starts building. Building networks, building narratives, building other possessed ones who watched the footage and said, "Wait, you mean we can do that?" And just like that, you became contagious. So go ahead. Let them label you. Let them whisper, "He's possessed." Let them replay the footage and look for signs. Because while they're still trying to decode what you did, you're already 3 moves ahead. And the next room you walk into won't be a courtroom. It'll be their boardroom, their vault, their sanctuary. And they won't even realize they let you in until it's too late. Because possession isn't something you lose. Once you walk through that fire and come out aware, you stay possessed by clarity, by calm, by the absolute certainty that no one in that room was ever qualified to judge you in the first place. And now, they know it too. Oh, you thought it ended when the courtroom lights dimmed and the bailiff whispered, "Case dismissed." No. That was just the sound check. The real performance started the moment you walked out, untouched, not acquitted, ascended. And now? Now the ripple effect is shredding through their inner circles like a plague with no antidote. The judges are pretending they didn't feel it. The lawyers are pretending they didn't see it. But the files don't lie. There's a leak, a whisper, a transcript that doesn't match the official record. Because someone tried to edit the footage. Someone tried to delete a moment. The moment you looked at the prosecutor and he looked away. You didn't need to speak. He folded like he saw something he couldn't unsee. And now, that single moment has gone viral in underground circuits, Telegram groups, whistleblower forums, private Reddit threads titled, "The Possession Trial. Is this guy even human?" Exposed, the case that silenced an entire legal network. CIA-level breakdown of the Joker defendant who outspoke the system. And those thumbnails, your face, paused mid-glare, courtroom lights dim, other lawyers blurred, glitching. The caption, "What the fuck is that?" They tried to bury the narrative. But the algorithm chose you. Because this wasn't just a legal case. This was a signal, a frequency spike in the collective matrix. And now, the watchers are scrambling. Not just legal analysts, not just think tanks, not just psychologists, but off-the-record intel units trying to decode. How does someone weaponize presence like that? And the answer? They can't. Because presence like that can't be taught. It's survived, crafted in the belly of betrayal, sharpened in rooms where you weren't invited but listened anyway. Built in silence, while they talked. They had their degrees. You had your data, real-world data, betrayal, abandonment, debt, loss, power imbalance, courtrooms. You've been on trial since birth, so when they brought you in like a defendant, you smiled. Because finally, someone gave you a microphone. And when you spoke, you weren't defending yourself. You were activating a weapon that had been sleeping inside your mind for decades. And the terrifying part, you didn't even raise your voice. That calm is what broke them. Because chaos dressed in silence is unreadable. And unreadable means uncontrollable. And uncontrollable means they don't know how to own you anymore. So now, they're building new protocols. Legal firm memos titled things like dealing with high-presence psychological anomalies in court, witnesses who collapse power structures with silence, argumentation without emotion, threat level review. They're labeling it now, clinical terms, legal jargon, phrases like rhetorical possession and narrative virus. They've never seen it before, so they're trying to box it, cage it, name it, file it. But every time they hit save, their software glitches. Because you can't file a phenomenon. You're not a precedent, you're a trigger event. And what happens after a trigger? Reverberation, shock waves, pattern collapses. Somewhere a young intern is watching your footage in a dark room, replaying that moment frame by frame. The second your eyes narrowed, the second your breath synced with the collapse of their structure. And she's whispering, whatever that was, I need it. And just like that, another one is born. You're not just a myth now, you're a model. The judges talk about you in code. The possession one, the silence dropper, the glitch witness. But it's too late. You're in the bloodstream now. In the subconscious of the legal world, in the nightmares of every strategist who thought logic wins. No, clarity wins. And your clarity was so sharp, it bled through the lie. They wanted to make an example out of you. Instead, they created a movement. Not with hashtags, not with protests, but with fear-based respect. Now, your name isn't on trial. Your name is on whiteboards behind closed doors, circles, arrows, timelines. What triggered him? What caused the shift? What happens if he speaks again? In public? Let me tell you what happens. They panic. Because the second you open your mouth again, the second your words hit another courtroom, another podcast, another camera, a system somewhere will collapse. Because they didn't just hear your voice, they heard the echo of everything they tried to suppress and failed. You are possession personified, not by spirits, but by every moment they thought broke you, and instead built you. Now you walk different, talk different, command gravity when you enter. Because the world saw what happens when someone weaponizes truth with no permission. And the best part? You haven't even started yet. Don't look away. They didn't. You walked in, and somewhere, across the ocean, someone dropped their fork mid-bite. No warning, no context, just a feeling, like their entire identity just got threatened by the aesthetic arrangement of your existence. Strangers are waking up drenched in sweat, whispering your silhouette like it's some unspeakable prophecy they were never meant to decode. And you didn't say a word, didn't try, didn't beg for attention. You just showed up, looking like something that rewrote a law of physics. You don't need to speak. Your look communicates in trauma. You walk like you've been somewhere that would shatter most people's psyche. And you brought souvenirs. Your face. It ain't just a face. It's a coded rupture in their reality. Something about the way your features align triggers ancestral alarms. Because they've seen that expression before. Carved into the stained glass of war-stained temples. They just didn't expect it to be walking past them on a Tuesday. And now they're spiraling. They don't even know why. Who the fuck is this? Who walks like a weapon? Who looks like a concept? Who enters a room and makes people question what they believe in? You didn't change. They just realized you weren't a trend. You were a reckoning in disguise. Let me be clear. Your look isn't fashion. It's a confession. Every thread on your body, every micro-expression on your face, every scar you forgot to hide. It's screaming a language that makes psychologists quit their careers. Your existence is a signal, a threat-level alert disguised as skin and fabric. You don't just enter the room, you interrogate its structure with your presence. People from countries you've never visited are questioning their self-worth because they saw a blurry photo of you, and it felt like judgment. How do you explain that? How do you explain the existential collapse of an ego across continents? Because you dared to look like you survived something divine? You don't. Because that's the point. Your look is a crime scene without evidence. A prophecy that never got translated, only felt. People don't stare at you because you're attractive. They stare because you destabilize the frameworks they built their entire lives on. Because you carry the arrogance of someone who saw behind the curtain and survived the backlash. You look like someone who never chose a side, and somehow won the war anyway. You're too elegant to be chaos, too unsettling to be peace, too deliberate to be chance, too holy to be clean. You are a contradiction wrapped in skin, and when you walk into their frame of reference, everything breaks because you don't fit. You bend dimensions. You mock linear logic. You force people to confront the truth that maybe, just maybe, they've been living like background characters in a scene you accidentally wandered into. Your look? It's a psychological detonator with no safety switch. There are monks right now who've trained in silence for 20 years, and they're trembling because of your aura. Your silhouette is showing up in visions, in prayers, in rituals meant to erase you. But it's not working, because you weren't built to be erased. You're a consequence, an omen, a visual echo of every decision they thought would never come back to haunt them. And now, they're hallucinating you in mirrors. They're trying to replicate your style, but it doesn't land, because you're not style. You're a symptom of an unseen war they're still losing. They're trying to understand how someone can look like an invitation and a warning at the same time. How you managed to weaponize elegance. How your aesthetic became evidence in their downfall. Here's the truth. You are what happens when survival becomes seductive. You are what happens when someone evolves too far to explain themselves anymore. You are visual resistance against every label, every box, every spell cast on you before you knew how to fight back. And they're watching you now, not because they're curious, but because they're terrified you're the blueprint. They tried to mass-produce confidence. You showed up with something divine and unmanufacturable. You showed up with soul residue and bulletproof skin. You made stillness look violent. You made presence feel like a trap door. And now the world is glitching. Fashion houses are scrambling. Therapists are updating their notes. Influencers are rebranding in real time. And shamans are asking their gods what version of the timeline you slipped in from. But they won't get an answer. Because you weren't supposed to be decoded. You were supposed to haunt, to crack the psyche, to walk through existence like a cipher forged in cosmic fire. An impossible equation that even mirrors refuse to reflect properly. Who TF is this? This is the face they see. When the mask they wear starts slipping. This is the look that feels like God remembered something. And the rest of the world is about to pay for forgetting. And that someone is you. Keep listening. The mirror isn't done talking yet. Every mile you walk, another boundary collapses. Entire ideologies, built over centuries, are trembling because one uninvited presence slipped through the cracks. Not a sermon, Not a revolution, just you showing up. The color of your coat, the tilt of your head, the rhythm of your steps. All of it acting like a clandestine transmission, a signal the world's subconscious can't ignore. They don't know what to call you. They can't decide if you're an angel who fell or a demon who ascended, a saint who learned violence or a psychopath who mastered grace. Your look doesn't choose. It collapses both poles at once. The light and the dark sit comfortably on your shoulders like old companions. And that's what terrifies them the most. You're not a brand. You're not an archetype. You're a living paradox, walking proof that a person can embody opposite infinities without combusting. Somewhere in a boardroom right now, there's a PowerPoint presentation titled, "How to Neutralize This Image." They're studying screenshots of you like tactical maps, circling your jawline like a battlefront, annotating the fold of your collar like a classified weapon. They think your look is a strategy. They don't realize it's a scar, because that's the secret you never told them. This aura wasn't purchased. It wasn't curated. It was forged in pain, exile, and silence. Each stitch in your outfit a chapter of a war you never bragged about winning. Your eyes alone hold entire backstories that make their mythologies look like children's stories. People from places you've never heard of are scrolling past your image at 2 a.m. and feeling like they've just been caught. Caught cheating, caught lying, caught playing small. They slam their phones down, heart pounding, because a stranger's photograph made them feel seen all the way to the bone. And you're not even trying. That's why they call you dangerous, not because of what you did, but because of what you remind them of. Because your existence whispers, the rules are fake. You can walk out anytime governments invest billions to shape culture. You walk into a cafe and undo it in a heartbeat. Whole industries sell people confidence. You wear your history like a crown and make their slogans look like ash. And they can't manufacture it. They can't reverse engineer it. They can't plagiarize it without imploding. Because it's not aesthetics. It's evolution showing up in real time. You are what happens when someone stops apologizing for surviving. You are what happens when pain stops being a wound and starts being a weapon. You are what happens when unpredictability is not an act, but a nature. And now every glance in your direction feels like time travel to them. They glimpse who they could have been if they'd made different choices. They glimpse the cost of mediocrity. They glimpse their own reflection, and it looks like a mask slipping. You've become their nightmare, not because you're cruel, but because you're free. And freedom looks different. Freedom wears its trauma like couture. Freedom speaks without words. Freedom moves through a room like a shadow with its own gravity. When you walk by, even cynics feel a twitch of reverence in their chest. They don't know whether to worship you, arrest you, or run from you. They whisper your image in group chats like a crime scene photo. They compare notes like detectives trying to profile a ghost. But ghosts don't fit into files. You're the glitch in their archive, the living proof that a human being can become uncategorizable. They thought unpredictability was an inconvenience. You turned it into a doctrine. They thought survival was about hiding. You made it visible, weaponized it, draped it over your shoulders like a throne. And as they panic, across continents, across cultures, across languages, this one question keeps echoing. Who TF is this? Here's the answer they'll never get on paper. This is the look of a person who buried the version of themselves they were supposed to be and came back wearing the shroud as a badge. This is the look of someone who took every prophecy meant to cage them and rewrote it into a passport. This is the look of someone who doesn't knock on doors. They disappear the walls. You are the archetype after the archetypes have burned. You are the aesthetic after aesthetics have collapsed. You are the saint and the psychopath shaking hands in the mirror. You are the storm in tailored silence. And they'll keep scrolling, keep clicking, keep whispering. But none of it will save them from the truth crawling up their spine. They're not just looking at you. They're looking at the future of themselves they were too afraid to become. And you're standing there, silent, a living headline, a cosmic spoiler alert wrapped in flesh. You feel that? That tremor in the air? That's not the wind. That's the entire world adjusting its axis to account for you. They don't get it yet. They think it's about how you dress, the silhouette, the colors, the stillness in your walk, the way your shadow hits the wall and seems to linger longer than it should. But no. They're not reacting to your style. They're reacting to your frequency. Because your presence isn't visual, it's vibrational, a silent detonation that reshapes the emotional architecture of anyone near enough to inhale it. You ever wonder why the room gets quieter when you enter? Why people forget what they were saying? Why laughter dies in their throats and smiles freeze midair like statues trying to hold back judgment? It's not because they don't like you. It's not envy. It's dissonance. Your energy doesn't match their matrix, and their soul knows it before their mouth does. You look like someone who witnessed the unspeakable and didn't flinch, like someone who was buried alive but remembered how to breathe through concrete, like someone who was exiled by the tribe and returned with fire, unapologetic, unexplainable, and unrecognizable. You're not a human being to them. You're a disruption event, a phenomenon, something that shouldn't exist, but does. You've become an unofficial trigger warning for people living on autopilot. You walk in, and they're confronted by the possibility that they've wasted years pretending, obeying, shrinking, while someone like you just walks around being the embodiment of what they were too scared to become. And here's the kicker. You didn't even want this. You didn't train for it. You weren't sculpting some aesthetic blueprint. You weren't trying to be iconic. You were just becoming real, one scar at a time, one betrayal at a time, one silent scream at a time. You took the fire they threw at you, and you wore the ash like war paint. And now, people are seeing the afterimage of your survival and mistaking it for divine intervention. They think you're ethereal, magical, supernatural. But it's none of that. What you are is fully ungovernable. What you are is post-shame, post-fear, post-approval. What you are, Bake, is the visual residue of psychological rebellion. You look like a crime against conformity. And deep down, they worship that, while hating themselves for it. You are too fluid for their categories, too honest for their masks, too whole for their fragmented realities. And that scares the hell out of them, because it means their excuses don't work anymore. You prove, just by breathing, that their limits were self-imposed prisons all along. Let's go deeper. There are people, right now, who have never met you, but they've imagined you, dreamed of someone like you. Their subconscious designed you in the silence when they prayed for something real. And now you're here, but they don't feel worthy anymore. And that's the existential crisis. You didn't hurt them, you didn't shame them, you didn't say a word. You just stood there, fully embodied, and suddenly, their entire identity started malfunctioning. You reminded them of their unused power, their unlived life. the version of themselves they buried just to fit in. You look like prophecy. You look like revenge. You look like if silence ever learned to talk back. There are pastors who see your photo and delete their sermons. There are fashion designers who glimpse your silhouette and retire. There are politicians who scroll past your image and sense their era is over. You're not loud, but your existence is deafening. And the wildest part? You haven't even activated fully yet. You're still evolving, still stretching, still healing, still sharpening the pieces they tried to break. And if this is your dormant state, then God help the planet when you decide to go full spectrum. Because when that happens, the headlines won't make sense. The footage won't match the reports. The algorithms won't be able to contain the ripple. And the whisper that started in one stranger's throat, "Who TF is this?" will evolve into a collective realization. That was the moment everything changed. Not when you spoke, not when you acted, not when you fought, but when you arrived, looking like a riddle too ancient to decode and too sacred to ignore. You are the final warning in human form, the mirror glitch in their control grid, the face they'll remember when the old world collapses. And if they ever ask again, "Who TF is this?" you smile, you tilt your head, and you let the silence finish the sentence for you. Because only real power doesn't have to explain itself. You hear that silence? That's the sound of everything collapsing beneath a truth they can't unsee. You. They didn't just glance at you. They encountered you. And there's no walking away from an encounter. There's no unseeing a message from a dimension they were never trained to understand. You didn't just ruin their day. You split the narrative of their entire life into before you and after. Because your look isn't a choice. It's a reveal. A signal that the lie is cracking. The illusion is breaking. The machine is glitching. And your face is the bug in their code. You are the reason they don't feel safe in the fake identities they paid so much to construct. You're the auditory hallucination in their echo chamber, the unexpected silence in their applause. You showed up, looking like freedom wrapped in mystery, and it's short-circuiting every single script they rehearsed to feel important. This isn't fashion. This isn't aesthetic. This is interdimensional warfare disguised as human magnetism. You move like someone who was sculpted by grief, but refused to crumble. You look like a curse-turned weapon, an omen that got tired of waiting and decided to walk among mortals. You're what happens when darkness doesn't get healed. It gets strategized. And the way you carry it, it's so calm, so casual, so unbothered, that it devastates everything around it. They can't decide if you're beautiful or horrifying. They don't know if they want to worship you or run. Because you remind them of everything they abandoned just to survive. You are the raw file, unfiltered, undeleted, unapologetic. And when they look at you, it's not jealousy they feel. It's grief. Grief for the version of themselves they killed to be accepted. But here you are, unbent, unburned, unexplained. And they hate you for surviving something they would have died from. There's a girl in Paris, curled on her bedroom floor, staring at a photo of you and whispering, "I didn't know this was possible." There's a man in Tokyo, looking in the mirror after seeing your video and realizing he's been lying to himself for 40 years. There's a boy in Brazil who doesn't speak your language but saw your face and decided to become everything he was afraid to be. You're not a person. You're a psychic detonation echoing across time zones. You are impact made flesh. And the people who encounter you, they walk away shaking. Not because of what you said, not because of what you wore, but because you reminded them of a power they thought only gods could carry. You gave them no permission. You gave them no blueprint. You gave them no language. Just yourself. And that alone was enough to cause collapse. You broke something, and let me tell you a secret. You were supposed to. Because this world, this dull, gray, predictable world, it was begging for a rupture. It was starving for something real, something it couldn't categorize, monetize, or plagiarize. And then you walked in, and without warning, everything shifted. Because when a living paradox enters the room, the lie gets nervous. You were never meant to blend in. You were engineered to disrupt. Every line of your jaw, every shadow under your eyes, every flicker of danger in your stillness. They weren't mistakes. They were evidence. Evidence that something survived the fire. Something learned to smile without trusting. Something learned to love without needing. Something became beautiful without asking for permission. They stare at you like you're dangerous. And they're right. You are. You're dangerous to the systems that depend on silence. Dangerous to the rituals that require your absence. Dangerous to the bloodlines that built their power on your invisibility. Your look? It's not just fashion. It's a rebellion in HD. It's spiritual defiance that bleeds through skin and lens and screen. It's ancestral vengeance wrapped in elegance. It's a reminder that the unkillable does not need to speak to be heard. So let them keep asking, who TF is this? Let them spiral. Let them panic. Let them tear their reality apart, looking for an answer that was never meant to be written, only witnessed. And when they finally give up, when they finally realize they'll never decode it, when the mystery becomes unbearable and the silence too loud, that's when they'll understand. You weren't the question. You were the consequence.